So Frank's been asked about it in his press conference.
Okay.
This is what he's had to say. I think after Kuti became the captain, he's done a lot of good things. Right. I said it when I named him the captain, that even though he's an experienced player, he's tried a lot, he's still a young leader. And I think a lot of the things he's done well on and off the pitch, I'm happy with. I'm actually very happy with his performance last night. I think he was a true captain in many ways throughout the game. Speaking at half-time, when we were 2-1 down, keep believing, keep doing the right things, but also when you're a young leader, sometimes you make a mistake. And of course, it's good to keep it internally. Johan and I had a good conversation with him this morning about everything, which of course we keep internally. So he's obviously not, they've said they've had a conversation, him, Johan, and Romero. Interesting, Fabio's not part of that conversation, because maybe that's an indication of him being out the door. But him, Johan, and Romero have had that conversation internally, a good conversation, he said. I wonder what was said during that conversation. But he's also addressed it as well in another quote. Asked about, is it unhelpful trying to attract players to Spurs with messy situations going on in the club? He says, I think especially in football, the most important thing is to keep the noise out. You can see there's this situation with Kuti's post. There could be others where it's maybe not that positive, or a lot of people speaking. When we want to attract players, we need to tell our as close to possible unbiased story, and a good story about this fantastic, beautiful club and why you should come to the club. I'm pretty sure that clever players and agents can look through if there's a little bit of noise. I think it's very important to stress that even though there is noise, the club is very aligned. Johan, Vinay and I are very aligned. Ownership is very aligned. We know it's a tough spell that we need to get through. Very interesting, by the way, he doesn't say Fabio. So that must be another indication that Fabio's on his way out. We know he's been heavily linked to Fiorentina. Surely the fact that he's not mentioning Fabio, is that an indication that Fabio's no longer part of these conversations?
You would take that from it, wouldn't you? You would take it from that.
Why else wouldn't he include Fabio? Because at the beginning they were joint sporting directors. They did an interview together. Now he's not even aligned. Now he doesn't even mention him about him being aligned. So I think that's quite interesting. But when you went about that, he's suggesting that this Kuti stuff is creating a lot of noise, and these players and agents we're trying to attract have to cut through that noise, and it's possible. But do you think all this noise is not helpful to the signing players? It can't be helpful.
Well,
but is it a deterrent?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if we're going for top stars, hopefully they'll see through it and say, "Joe, I'm going to come here and make a difference. This club can be great. This club can be huge, and get back to where it wants to be." But look at the players we've lost without this noise. Look at the players that we haven't signed because of wages during the years. There is a stigma with this football club that we don't pay the top wages. You heard it before when people went on England duty and they laughed at the wages they were on, because we don't pay it. So you would think players would, like you said, they'll see through it, and if they're, hopefully this will check them into gear to buy the top quality players that will have a bit of ego about themselves, that will have a bit of drive, and stop us, although I do want to say signing young kids, but we're going to talk about Sousa. We'll see, but this noise is generated because of a lack of common ground or a direction of what this club wants and what this club is and where this club wants to be.
But I think it's interesting. He says, you know, you can see this with Kuti's post, and there could be others where it's maybe not that positive or a lot of people speaking. So is he hinting there at a disgruntlement in the dressing room? Obviously, we know it because the post itself and the people who are liking it and
exactly.
commenting on it. But it's interesting for him to acknowledge there could be others who are also feeling this way. And how do we address that? How do the club go about putting that right? And he's saying him, Vinay and Frank are aligned. But if you're not aligned with the players, that doesn't mean anything.
Correct.
The players are the most important thing you need that alignment with.
Correct.
So are they aligned with the players? Are the players on board with what's happening? Do they agree? Do you have buy-in from these players about what we're getting from this football club? And if not, where does what do we do about that? Is it just about clear decks, get a load of players who are buying in? Is it about putting in a new project in place that these players can buy into? How, like, for me, I feel like a lot of it is to do with, I think in the last 2 years, as much as, don't get me wrong, the results were bad and all that, we won that Europa League, and then not only that, it was the principles Ange was putting in place, right? He was putting in that we're going to play this way, this is the team we're going to be, this is how we're going to try and play football. And, you know, that was kind of in line with the ethos of the football club, and it was something that obviously the players could fully buy into about, you know, really bigging them up and really giving them, you know, you're brilliant. We can blow these teams away. Van der Ven said in his overlap interview, he said, whenever Ange spoke, we felt like we could smoke anyone. You know, you had that feeling. You've now got a manager who's being a realist. He's, you know, saying, you know, we have to do these. We have to be good from set pieces. We have to make sure we're keeping clean sheets and nicking goals off the counter or set pieces. And, you know, we're now playing that way. So when you've gone from that approach, which is maybe too far in one way, but still an approach where you're feeling like you're 10 feet tall, you can take on the world, to now an approach where we just need to survive, right? We just need to survive this game. We just need to get out of this game without losing kind of approach. And if we can nick a goal and get 3 points, then great. But if not, make sure you don't lose. Make sure you don't concede. Be risk averse. Only allow a shot from outside the box. Don't allow a shot from inside the box, kind of thing. The players inside, I can understand them not liking that, not appreciating that setup, not appreciating of the message that sends. We're a big football club, massive stadium, yet we're being told we have to keep clean. We have to focus on being risk averse and keeping clean sheets. That's the message we're being sent. You know, we have to focus on set pieces. That's the message we're being sent. Like, I'm not surprised that there's disgruntlement from the group, because, all right, sack Ange, that's one thing, but we've won a Europa League, you know, the players are so on such a high, they've already had this feeling of we can take on the world from the manager. You've now appointed a manager who's a complete opposite of that, and he's not as inspiring when he talks. His tactics are very negative. If they had put in a different manager in place, like a manager who could still keep that belief in them and get them flying, then I think you wouldn't have this disgruntlement like we're seeing. We never saw this disgruntlement from the players, by the way, under Ange, but for a reason, I think, because how he got them feeling. Right, I'm not saying it's about results. I'm not saying Ange was the right guy, although I do believe he wasn't. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is we've made the appointment we've made with Thomas Frank has basically, instead of riding a wave of positivity and letting these players dream about what's possible after winning the Europa League, it's kind of like, yeah, you won that Europa League, but you did finish 17th, so here's a big slap in the face of reality. That's what we've tried to do, and I think that's a big mistake, in my opinion. You should be riding that wave of momentum rather than trying to bash these players down with what they did in the league. You should ride the wave of the positivity of what the Europa League did, and at least have a manager in place who's going to ride that wave of positivity rather than have a manager who's basically going to consolidate mid-table. And the players have seen that. And these are big players who a lot of them want to be winners, and a lot of them, like Van der Ven, who has ambitions playing for Real Madrid and blah, blah, blah. These players believe they should be a top 6 club for a reason. They don't believe they should be at Tottenham to be mid-table. They believe they should be challenging. All the players at Tottenham believe that. No one signs for Tottenham thinking we're going to be mid-table and that's acceptable, right?
Yep.
They all believe we should be. So when they've got a manager telling them we finished 17th last season, mid-table's good, was an improvement, of course they're going to not be on board with that. And I think that's kind of what we're seeing now, in my opinion.
So I agree with a lot with what you've just said. Agree a lot with it. But like I said, Van der Ven said we felt 10 foot tall and we could beat anyone.
Yeah.
And that's the entire squad. The entire squad felt that way, apparently. So, yes, we won the Europa League. But obviously they went into games thinking they could beat anyone, when the sad truth was they couldn't.
Yeah, that's
the sad truth was they couldn't. So it's all well and good saying, yeah, mate, you can knock anyone out, you can beat anyone, you can do anything. It's good having that belief, but then you don't. So yes, he won the Europa League, and for that I will always be internally grateful. And he's done something that very few managers get to do at this football club. And I agree with you again that we have gone from one end of the spectrum to the other with Frank. What I will say is, like we had this conversation before about, do I agree with some of the things Frank's saying as a reality check? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. We've needed, because this squad isn't as good as we think it is. But it goes to show this is where the players come into play here. So they need to be mollycoddled to say you can beat anyone. And they're delighted and happy and, oh, yeah, let's run through a brick wall. Then when they get a dose of reality, oh, we don't like this, they're professional footballers. Every day in people's working life, they have appraisals and whatever with their bosses, and they may like what they hear, they may not like what they hear, but people get on and try to make themselves better. Mm-hmm. At what point here, where I agree with you, we have gone from one extreme to the other, and Ange's team talks were passionate. They were heavily focused around the players and getting the best out of them. Where does it come in that the players go, do you know what, we ain't accepting this? This isn't who we are. This isn't the standards we set ourselves. We're going to do better. So, agreed, one extreme to the other. And I think Frank talking about some of the facts is correct. The manner that he's doing it. And we can only imagine if he's saying it in the press, what he's saying in the training ground, in meetings or whatever. He's going about this wrong. He's going about this wrong. And if we can find a manager that is between the two of them in styles, and I don't mean completely different style of football, but I mean in their being supportive around the players, being a people person, then we might be on something. But hey, we'll just keep trying loads and loads of different managers and failing because we won't back them. We won't set a standard or ethos we want to stick by and hire managers that have the same profile. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, and that's a fair point. I understand there does need to be a dose of reality, but I think right now Frank is trying to basically make the case that what he's doing a decent job because we are just a mid-table squad and that's all we can do, and that's not a message we should be sending out to our team, let alone our fans or our club. And even if it might be true, you don't send that message out. You don't. You get them to try and believe they're better than that. Yeah. So because maybe they'll get more better performances of that. You don't just get them accepting that. Yeah. So I think that's part of the reason you're seeing a lot of disgruntlement from Romero and all this kind of stuff. On top of the fact that there's a lack of investment as well, and he's probably looking around and we're still playing teenagers, and you know we've let go of Kane and we've let go of Son, and where's the replacements? Where's the world class talent? How are we supposed to push on when these guys have gone and we haven't replaced them? That definitely plays into it as well. I think the whole thing just screams mediocrity. And I think it's been probably a final straw with him. More quotes from Frank on the transfer window. We are working very, very hard to see if we can improve the squad. Now he does mention Fabio. It says Johan, Fabio, Vinay, everyone in and around the club, recruitment department is doing that. January is very, 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 3 verys there.
Say that again, sorry, that last
January is a very, very, very difficult window.
Oh, Jesus
It's
Christ.
very important to get short-term success and long-term success. Everything is linked. So the players we are bringing in, it's because we think they can improve the squad and the team. 3 verys there for the January window, Brian. It doesn't inspire in confidence that we're going to be getting any big signings. It's going to be very difficult. He also says about more Frank quotes about the recent form. He says, I think there's a couple of things in it. I think the last 5 games we played, Liverpool, Palace, Brentford, Sunderland and Bournemouth, I think it's been consistent, good competitive performances. Through the roof? No, but good competitive, consistent performances, and that's what you need in a long season. Those 5 games should have given us more than the 5 points we've got. Probably 8, 9, maybe 10. And if you get that from those games, it's different. That's what we're focusing on. Can we produce performances like that last night? Overall, like the performance, it's my job to deal with all the scrutiny. It's no problem. I can face all the questions. I'll take all the blame. I'll take all of that. Also, my job is to look through everything and look through the defeat last night. Of course, it was very emotional and tough to take for everyone, but I think it was in many ways good and we deserve more from that. So we just need to keep doing that, and especially the last 2 games, it's a minimum of 4 points we should have, if not more. So we just need to keep doing that, and the next thing is it's almost the perfect storm. In a storm, some are building fences and hiding behind it, others are building windmills and getting stronger and getting more energy and learning from it. Ooh, that's quite interesting. He said, in a storm, some are building fences and hiding behind it. Who do you think he's talking about? Some players, maybe? He's calling out Romero with some of his comments, and he's saying he's hiding behind a fence in the storm?
The plot thickens. The plot, mate. Who?
Do you think he's talking about players, fans? It's interesting when he says
board.
In a board. Is he talking about the board there when he says in the fence, some are building fences are hiding behind it?
Or is he saying that the board's the windmill? Look, first of all, I will say, when he said very, very, very difficult, I will say it for a lot of Spurs fans, let's just change that to very, very, very predictable. January, the only reason I say January is a tougher window is because it's only a month long, and then you've got players at clubs that are fighting for promotion or relegation, and they may not want to sell their key players. If you pay the money, which we have seen, Brennan Johnson, Semenyo go to Manchester City, these people will come. It's about paying the money. And I take it's a very, very difficult window to get players in, as in we don't want to pay the money. I go back to the day when Kieran Trippier signed for Newcastle, and me and Ben had a ding-dong on here. I wasn't saying that's a big, big transfer, but you got a very good player out of a club where he just won the league title to go to. You could get these players. Conor Gallagher is just sitting on the bench. I don't think he's going to be a huge, like a massive ball-breaking transfer fee to get out of Atletico Madrid, whether it be loan or whatever, but he improves the club massively in midfield, especially with the news with Bentancur now, but they don't do anything. And if Spurs were to slap some bids down for players and offer the wages, I don't think it's a difficult window. It's an expensive window, and that's why we're so inactive.
Yeah, and I think the problem you have in January, which to be honest every club has in January, apart from maybe Man City, who will just dump up the money, is especially in the way we are right now, which we're not very attractive when it comes to the top players.
Yep.
You know, Semenyos, these kind of people, we're not that attractive if we're being honest. Those players that we really want, which is stars who are ready for a top 6 club, who are in their prime, who are ready for a big move, who are the other top 6 clubs are going to be looking at, like, of course, because they're not a secret, they're you know, everyone knows them. Those players are unattainable for us right now because they don't want to join us, or they're going to cost so much money that it's just paying the overpayment's going to be crazy. We're just going to have to basically pay a crazy wage package. So we can't really get those players. The younger players who are looking to develop and grow into a star are looking at us thinking, look at the football they're playing. Do I really want to be part of that? Is that the best place to grow right now? You know, look at what he's doing with Bergvall. Like, for example, like he's really misprofiled him and he's not playing him in his best position. And is that the best club for me? So getting those talents are also going to be difficult right now. we're now also in a situation where players like Jan Diomande, who's played 25 games for Leipzig at 19 years of age, is now worth apparently close to 100 million. We're not going to pay those kind of fees for a player who's a complete punt at this point. As much as the recruitment and the scouting might say this guy's great, the reality is he's 19, having played 25 games in the Bundesliga. Is that enough to splash 100 million out on? No.
Nope.
So where does that leave us? Where that leaves us looking for players like Brighton will probably sign, from foreign leagues who you have to identify, but they have super smart scouting, and they have an incredible way of getting talent, which we just don't have that in our locker. So where that leaves us is signing players probably from mid-range clubs who teams aren't really looking at right now, in the hope that our recruitment is so smart that we actually can get some undervalued talent in the market and bring them in, and actually them being a lot better than we think they are. And that's the situation where we've always been, essentially.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, but I will say when it comes to the youth products that you were mentioning, and will they want to come and misprofiling? Look, I think when it comes to it, young players will see Tottenham keep going down this avenue of young. It doesn't matter who the manager is, what position you're playing in. Spurs will keep buying younger. But then you look at it, we keep buying young, but we want to hope and pray that all these youngsters that we've got coming through are going to get in. Well, how are they going to get in if we keep buying youngsters, then buying more youngsters to replace youngsters? So it's just madness. Our transfer strategy, like I said, there are people, Conor Gallagher. Not saying he would come, and especially with the Chelsea connection and now seeing where we are. But there are players of that ilk that are sitting on the bench that can't get regular first team minutes, that we know are proven Premiership ready, that can come in and do a job. And yeah, do you know what? We might need to pay higher. In fact, we do need to pay higher wages. Not saying for every single player, but it has been a common theme with Tottenham Hotspur that you won't get paid the wages that you're deserved or you should be earning at a football club, because we won't pay it. When it comes to bringing it, I don't think just because we've got Levy out the door, all of a sudden we're going to be dining at the top table and paying the big money for the big player. It's just never going to happen, especially not straight away. The tier below, yes, we might not be in an attractive position, but like I said, these players have egos, and they're like, do you know what, I could be the player that changes this. This is a big club. I walk into this first team and get regular minutes, and if they're from a European league or South American and they're a top player, they'll be like, obviously I want to come into Europe. That shouldn't, how we're playing right now shouldn't be, I can see it being a deterrent for the player, but Tottenham Hotspur should be able to turn around and say, right, listen, we're going to pay you the wages. You're in London, you're starting, and you're going to make a difference. And that should hopefully be enough. But for years and years of mismanagement, and like I said, recruitment is another thing, because we've had this for years, haven't we? The only one that I will say that did well was obviously Paul Mitchell. And when he wasn't listened to, he left. We've had Steve Hitchin, who, as Levy said in his notes, misspent 250 million. No repercussions. Even came out on the documentary and said, oh my God, I hate the January transfer window. We've had Johan Lang, which has just been an absolute...
Yeah.
Absolute... And then you can go through others that have just been an absolute mess. Baldini. So the director of football, his reach... Look at the players Aston Villa are signing and the strength they've gone to since Johan Lang has gone. They have only gone one trajectory, and that's up. And Villa were delighted to get rid of him, all the fans. We lap him up because obviously, oh, you come here, you're fit. And he has been an absolutely categorical cock-up.
There's more quotes.
Oh, God.
Asked about whether he has done enough to have more time at Tottenham and is his play style enough. He says, no doubt about that. put it this way, would we love to be higher in the table and have more points? 100%. We work hard every single day to make sure we perform well. We want to land in the best possible position at the end of the season. We need to look at the FA Cup game, a good opportunity against Villa, a team who is flying in the moment in time. The tournament is very important for the fans. We won it 8 times in our history. This is a tough spell. We will get through this. We definitely want to do more, in quotes, from an attacking point of view. We have scored enough goals. It's a fair question. We spoke about that frustration, of course. Yeah, it's the ethos of the club. It's something we're working very hard on. I see myself as above average intelligence. I'm very aware of that. My teams have always created and scored goals. This team will do the same. It's fair to say that we've been lacking in some tough, free-flowing offensive players that we've had in the last few seasons. That's part of the challenge and part of the other bits we need to work very hard on every day to improve. So he's saying he 100% has done enough in his time at Tottenham to deserve more time. And he's saying he's working very hard to get more attacking phase of play into the team. And part of the challenge is we've been missing a lot of the offensive players from the previous seasons. That's why. That's the reason.
Look, in slight defence of him, he has had to deal without Solanke, Maddison, Kulu, who are big players. Son gone. But we've now got Kudus. We've now got Simmons. We've brought in Mawani. There are goals there. But
he's underused help.
He's underused Tell completely. You look at it.
Bergvall left wing when he's had Odegaard available. He's playing Bergvall on the 10. Like, I think for me, it's more to do with how he's set up than the players that we got. I'm not saying these players are well beaters. I'm not saying if he's set up in a different way, we're going to be challenging for a title or anything, or even top 4. But I'm saying, I look at the way we're setting up and the way the team tries to attack, and the attacking players are so isolated so often. Richarlison, when we're defending, is like a defensive midfielder. We should have him on the halfway line so we're ready to spring on the opposition when we're attacking. We're so deep all the time. I feel when we're defending, all the players are inside the penalty box. All players apart from like the striker, it seems, are inside the penalty area to defend the box, and then it means when we win the ball back, we are so deep. We're very heavily reliant on trying to win set pieces and trying to score goals in that department. I think he doesn't really have a good in possession game plan. When he was at Brentford, he had a very direct and good counter-attacking plan. But it's hard to do that when you're at Tottenham, when most games you're expected to have a lot of possession and teams are going to invite you onto them. You need to be a lot better. You need to have a lot better plan in possession. And at the moment, he doesn't seem to be able to implement it, or at least after 6 months, he's really struggled to implement that at Tottenham. And the thing for me is, it's like he keeps saying how he's focusing on the defence and he's focusing on the attack, but you can't work like that. You can't train like that. Both of them, they relate to each other. If you're attacking more, you're going to be defending less. If you have more of the ball, the opposition is going to have less of the ball. You can't just say, we're going to defend, work on the defence, and then once that's sorted, we'll work on the attack. That's not how football works, because once you start attacking more, you're going to have to change the way you defend. Because you're going to have more of the ball, and you're going to have to change. You're going to have to defend in a different ways. There's no point working on your defense and then working on your attack, and then that means you're going to have to change the way you defend. So then all of a sudden, all that work's gone out the window. So what's the point of putting it in now? You have to work with how the balance of the team is. That's your job as a coach, to have a plan in place of how we're going to attack a team while also not being as exposed at the same time. You can't just work on one and not the other. And you can't give the excuse of, we have these players missing, because at the end of the day, at the beginning of the season, we knew that. This isn't a surprise. It hasn't been sprung on him that he's going to have no Decky Maddison. Maybe Solanke's he has, but with Decky and Maddison, we knew from pre-season. So this isn't like with last season, it happened during a game mid-season. Then all of a sudden you have to scramble around to get that to work, right? With Romero and Van der Ven, it happened in a game. With Maddison and Decky, it happened in pre-season, so he's had time to plan for this. This isn't a surprise. He's had Javi as well brought in. He's had Kudus there, also brought in. He's had Mwani brought in. So he's got players there, attacking talent he can work with. Now, I understand maybe at the beginning it's going to take time for them to gel and whatever. We're 6 months in now. These excuses are wearing thin of we're still missing Maddison and Decky. I don't get the excuse of we're missing these players, so we have to play this way, essentially, is what he's saying. Or we're now struggling. As he's saying, the players are that bad that this is the best they can offer. That's the most they can attack. This is the most he can get out of them. I think these are very, very talented players, and we should be seeing a lot more from them. He should be getting the best out of Javi. We should be seeing more out of these attacking players, but we're not. And I don't think, it's maybe a lot of it, maybe a part of it is due to the fact that they're adjusting to the league and all this kind of stuff, and that does take time. But I look at how we play and how isolated all these players are, and how there is no kind of in possession kind of way of playing that I'm seeing being implemented and seeing being worked on, and it's hard for me to buy into a lot of what he's saying here when I hear his excuses.
What I will say, the thing that's annoyed me about this is with him saying it is there's been no indication that they're working on the attack. What he's done is change the personnel. He's not changed the way we play. He's changed the personnel. Yes, we look more creative yesterday. Sunderland at home, apart from the goal, which was from a corner, we really offered nothing. We offered nothing. I don't think the keeper had a save to make, from what I recall. And it's just the same thing over and over again. I will say, where I disagree with you, is like I've said before, this squad just isn't good enough offensively. It just is not good enough. And yes, we got rid of Son and brought in Kudus, and Kudus has got Premier League experience, and he has been very, very, very good at times, but there are times where he's hold on to the ball too long or whatever. But then you look, Xavi has just come in, and where he started to look brighter, and then obviously got that red card. But the other bits of quality around it just aren't the standard what Tottenham Hotspur need. And like I said, you look at this now, the drop-off from a Son and Kane there, or a Berbatov and Keane. Or, so
look at it this way, though. We've signed Kudus and Xavi.
Yep.
Are we expecting right now for us to sign better quality players than those players?
In an ideal world, we would. But in the real world,
How
no.
can we attract them?
This is where the wages come in. This is where we've had so long.
Semenyo, we tried, he can't attract him.
Well, no, Semenyo, an Arsenal fan, and has had his heart set on going to Manchester City. And I get that. I get that. And when Spurs said they're no longer going for him,
I'm saying in this window would be lucky to get Xavi's and Kudus's, is my point.
I think, again,
We would. We're not getting that this window.
I kind of slightly disagree with that, and I want to see. Do you know what? I want to see Spurs say, "Here we go, we're going to pay you the wages," and then we'll see. If a player comes, if Spurs, let's just say a player wants 250 grand a week, and it's a player that is worthy of 250 grand a week, not just to hit him just so we can bring him in. Let's see Spurs finally do it. Let's see if Spurs finally go, right, you want 250? We are going to.
Who's these big players who are coming to us?
Mate, I'm saying someone that will come in like a Conor Gallagher.
Okay, we don't need to maybe.
But let's just say Conor Gallagher, because I think
is he better than Xavi and Kudus, right? Like in terms of that level of player.
For what we need, absolutely. He comes in, he makes a massive.
I'm not saying he doesn't make a difference. I'm just saying in the level of player he is, right? Is he of a higher standing than Xavi or Kudus? It was when we signed them. Probably not. Probably similar level.
Mate, when you look at what he's done in the Premier League, and he was in the top tier for all the metrics. He may not be the flashy name. He may not be the flashy name and have all the tricks and skills.
He's not a world-class player, though, is he?
No, but he is a player. Even would you say Ruben Neves is a world-class player? He comes in immediately.
Yeah, he's probably closer to world-class.
But he's not world-class. That's what I'm saying. That we have to realise where we are. And what we need is we need players. No, but what I'm saying is someone like a Conor Gallagher, and I'm just using Conor Gallagher because he's exactly what this midfield needs. Exactly what this midfield needs.
I'm talking about the forward line.
Oh, the forward line, mate. Look, this is a football club that signed Berbatovs. The players are there.
Yeah, look, people suggesting Ilman Ndiaye. Look, Ilman Ndiaye's a great player. Is he above, like, let's say, a Kudus? Where Kudus is, like, what his standing is? And that's my point. Though my point is, we signed some good players in the summer.
I put Ndiaye on par with Kudus.
That's what I'm saying. That's my point. We signed Xavi and Kudus in the summer. I'm not expecting us to sign much better right now in terms of what those players are.
Spurs this window, it's.
Is the argument we need more Xavi and Kuduses? We don't have enough of them, or is the argument they're not good enough?
I think that's the kind of level that should be the bare minimum. At Tottenham Hotspur, the bare minimum. That they are quality players.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Spurs should be heading. If you bring in more players of that ilk,
so we lack the depth of those kind of players. Is the point?
Oh, but mate, we lack the depth. Period. You look at it like we said earlier. We got no right wingers. We got 3 recognised right backs, and one's having to cover everywhere, and the other one is being run ragged because Destiny's injured. I hate to say it, you look at the filth. They've spent years building that squad, and now they've got a player in every position, or 2 players in every position of a higher. Not saying we're going to jump to. I'm not saying, but they spent the time to readdress it and build it up.
Here's my point. I'm just trying to get across is the fact that he is bemoaning that we've had no Maddison and Decky, right? And we're basically saying the attack's not good enough. That's essentially what he's saying, and I'm working what I got. My point is he signed Xavi and Kudus and Mawani in the summer, and he's had that to work with. Now, if you're saying, and the point being is, well, he's kind of saying that's not enough. My point is that's the best he's going to get right now. My point is those kind of players right now, he would be lucky to get that in this window. If we signed, and let's say he had an identical twin Kudus, right? If we signed him, we'd be lucky to get him right now because we're not going to get much better than that, right? So if he's saying these players are not good enough and I can't work with these players, well, who can you work with? Because you're not getting much better right now. So that's a problem. We need someone who can work with these players.
This is a guy that's worked with, and one of the things that I loved about him, look what he's done with Wissa, Tony and Buemo. They weren't recognised. He scouted Thiago. He got Thiago in for Brentford. Obviously didn't get to play him because of an injury. He's worked with players who are nowhere near where those players are. But let's get this right with Mawani. The only reason that guy is here is because of Solanke's injury. If Solanke hadn't been injured, it would have been Solanke and Richarlison to hold the fort, both who could pick up injuries. So Kudus and Xavi were great additions. Obviously, we missed out on Eze and Gibbs White as well. But Kudus, when we signed him, and especially how he started, looked fantastic. Simmons, we've got to give a player a season to settle in. But obviously, some players come in and set the ground running right away. Some take a little bit of time and then they kick on, or they fail. And I've got great belief in Xavi Simmons. I think Xavi Simmons will turn out to be a terrific player for Tottenham Hotspur. I think Kudus will be. But again, it's a case of.
But this is my frustration with Frank just always going on about these injuries to front players. So you're saying these guys aren't good and you can't work with them? Is that what you're saying?
No, that I mean, agree. He's not doing himself any favours. He really isn't doing himself any favours. Especially, like I said just before, his ethos was building up players and making them better and developing them with the players I mentioned at Brentford. And then you can't say that here when these are established players.
They've got great recruitment, clearly.
Oh, mate,
look at them now; they're fifth.
Mate, they have got. You look at. Look, I guarantee you, when Semenyo finally completes his move, Bournemouth will have know exactly who the replacement is, and he will go on to do great things for Bournemouth. Just like when you got to remember, Bournemouth lost 3 of their back 4, and they were monster players from last season. And they just like we saw when they beat us 1-0 at the Lane. Their defence look like they've been playing together for years. Their recruitment, which is the massive problem at Spurs, massive, is shambolic. There is no plan. There is no, whether it's data or eye test, whatever. It's right. We want a player that can do this. This is the. Let's just say when we went and got a Harry Kane at striker. That is what we want. How cheap can we find him? That's what they want, but what they go and get is nowhere near it. It's the team or wish version. And Spurs need to stop doing that and go, we want this player. That's the one we're going for.
All right, well, let's move on from Frank, because we've spoken about it a lot. If you want to watch the full press conference, that is live now on the channel to see all his quotes about the current situation.